Section 1 of the Great Events in the History of North and South America. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Larry Wilson. Great Events in the History of North and South America by Charles Goodrich. Introduction. If it be remarkable that the Western continent should have remained unknown for so many centuries to civilized man, it is perhaps still more remarkable that since its discovery and settlement it should have become the theater of so many signal transactions, and have advanced so rapidly to its present civil, religious, and political importance. The history of every portion of it is interesting and instructive, but more especially that portion occupied by the people of the United States. A great work is in progress throughout the entire continent, but the importance of the American Republic, with which our fortunes are more immediately connected, is becoming apparent with each revolving year. While therefore we propose to make an historical survey of the several countries both of North and South America, we shall dwell with greater particularity upon the events which have signalized our own republic in America. If not from her present population, which, though increasing by a wonderful progression, is still in point of numbers inferior to many other nations, yet from her wealth, her enterprise, her commercial and political relations, she is entitled to rank among the most powerful and influential nations on the globe. The eyes of the civilized world are upon her, and with wonder, if not with jealousy, do they mark her rapid and surprising advancement. The history of such a people must be full of interest. By what means has her national elevation been maintained? But a little more than 2 centuries have elapsed since the first settlers planted themselves at Jamestown, in Virginia, and the Pilgrim Fathers landed on Plymouth Rock. They were then a feeble band. Before them lay a howling wilderness. An inhospitable and intractable race rose up to oppose and harass them. The means of living were stinted and uncertain. Famine pressed upon them and weakened them. The winters were cold and piercing. Their habitations were rude and unprotected. Disease added its suffering and sorrows, and death hurried many of the few to an untimely grave. Yet amidst accumulated calamity they gathered strength and courage. Accessions from the mother country were made to their numbers. Other and distant stations were occupied. The forest fell before them. Towns and villages rose in the wilderness, and solitary places became glad. Savage tribes, after years of terror, massacre, and bloodshed, retired, leaving the colonists to the peaceful occupancy of the land in all its length and breadth. But they were still a dependent people, subject to the laws, exactions, and oppressions of a proud and arbitrary foreign government. That government, jealous of their growing importance, adopted measures to check their aspirations, and to extend and perpetuate the prerogatives of the crown. But it was impossible that a people sprung from the loins of the fathers, whose courage and enterprise had been matured by years of conflict, should be either crushed or long thwarted in their plans. Oppression served rather to strengthen them. Threats prompted to resolution, and served to inspire confidence. And at length they arose to the assertion and maintenance of their rights. They entered the field, and for years, with all the fortunes of war apparently against them, they grappled successfully with the colossal power of the British Empire, thwarted her counsels, conquered her armies, established their independence. But a little more than 70 years has America been free from the British yoke. Yet in that brief period her advancement has outstripped all the predictions of the most sanguine statesmen. With but 3 millions of people, she entered the revolutionary contest. She now numbers more than 20 millions. Instead of 13 colonies, she embraces 30 free and independent states. Meanwhile, she has continued to gather national strength and national importance. Her wealth is rolling up, while her moral power is becoming the admiration of the world. These attainments, too, she has made amid convulsions and revolutions, which have shaken the proudest empires, and spread desolation over some of the fairest portions of the globe. On every side are the evidences of her advancement. Genius and industry are creating and rolling forward with amazing power and rapidity the means of national wealth and aggrandizement. An enterprising, ardent, restless population are spreading over our western wilds, and our cities are now the creations almost of a day. But by what means has this national elevation and prosperity been attained? Shall we ascribe them to the wise, sagacious, and patriotic men who guided our councils and led our armies? Shall we offer our homage and gratitude to Washington, Franklin, Adams, Otis, Henry, Jefferson, and a multitude of others who periled fortune, liberty, life itself, to achieve our independence and lay the foundation of our country's glory? Let us do them honor, and a nation's honor and gratitude will be accorded to them, so long as the recorded history of their noble achievements shall last. Theirs is no vulgar sepulchre, green sods are all their monument, and yet it tells a nobler history than pillared pile, or the eternal pyramid. They need no statue nor inscription to reveal their greatness. But while merited honor is paid to the sages and heroes of the Revolution and to the Pilgrim Fathers of an earlier age, let not the hand of Providence be overlooked or disregarded. On this point the Puritans have left a noble example to their posterity. The supplication of the smiles and blessings of a superintending Providence preceded and accompanied all their plans and all their enterprises. God was their king, and they regarded him as truly and literally so, as if he had dwelt in a visible palace in the midst of their state. They were his devoted, resolute, humble subjects. They undertook nothing which they did not beg of him to prosper. They accomplished nothing without rendering to him the praise. They suffered nothing without carrying up their sorrows to his throne. They ate nothing which they did not implore him to bless. Nor were the actors of the revolutionary struggle insensible to the necessity of the divine blessing upon their counsels and efforts. Washington, as well as the head of his army, as in the retirement of his closet, or amid some secluded spot in the field, looked up for the blessing of God of battles. That also was a beautiful recognition of a superintending Providence, which Franklin made in the convention which, subsequent to the Revolution, framed the Constitution. "I have lived, sir, a long time," said he, "and the longer I live, the more convincing proof I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid?" Let it be remembered by the American people, by men who fill her councils, by historians who write her history, by the young who are coming up to the possession of the rich inheritance, that whatever human agencies were employed in the discovery, settlement, independence, and prosperity of these states, the good hand of God has been over and around us, and has given us this goodly land, with its religious institutions, its free government, its unwonted prosperity. Let not the historian who writes, especially if he writes for the young, be thought to travel out of his appropriate sphere in an effort to imbue the rising generation with somewhat of the religious spirit of the fathers, to lead them to recognize the divine government in respect to nations as well as individuals, to impress upon them that sentiment of the father of this country as just as impressive, viz., of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. When the children of the Pilgrims forget that Being who was the Pilgrim's guide and deliverer, should they ever be so faulty and unfortunate, when the descendants of the Puritans cease to acknowledge and obey and love that Being, for whose service the Puritans forsook all that men chiefly love, enduring scorn and reproach, exile and poverty, and finding at last a superabundant reward, when the sons of a religious and holy ancestry fall away from its high communion, and join themselves to the assemblies of the profane, they have forfeited the dear blessings of their inheritance, and they deserve to be cast out from this fair land, without even a wilderness for their refuge. No, let us still keep the ark of God in the midst of us. Let us adopt the prayer of the wise monarch of Israel: "The Lord our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. Let him not leave us nor forsake us, that he may incline our hearts unto him, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, and his statutes, and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. Such a regard for God, his laws, his institutions, and his service is obligatory upon the present generation, aside from those blessings which may be justly anticipated as the reward of such reverence and obedience. It is due to the memory of the Pilgrim Fathers. Never can we so worthily and appropriately honor them as to cherish the pious sentiments which they cherished, and perpetuate the civil and religious institutions which they founded. It is due to the generation of our Revolutionary era, which, impressed with a sense of the value of the inheritance transmitted to them, periled life and fortune that they might transmit that inheritance in all its fullness and in all its richness to their posterity. We are the children of patriot heroes, who prayed and then fought, and fought and then prayed. It is due to ourselves, as we would secure the admiration and gratitude of the generations which are to follow us. It is due to those generations which, by the blessing of God, are to spread over and occupy the vast territory which now constitutes the American Republic. Those generations! I see them rising and spreading abroad as future years roll on. What shall be their character, their regard for civil and religious liberty, their peace, order, happiness, and prosperity, may depend upon the example which we set and the principles which we inculcate. We are living and acting not only for the present but for the future. We are making impressions for all time to come. If then our history for the future shall be as our history past, filled up with divine blessings and signal providential interpositions, if the noble work begun centuries since is to go on, if the fullest liberty and the purest religion are to prevail as time rolls on, if this vast continent is to be inhabited by enlightened and happy millions, we, who are now on the stage of action, must imitate the example of that pilgrim band which first landed on Plymouth Rock. Under the influence of such an example transmitted from generation to generation, we may hope that our beloved country will ultimately become, if she is not already, the queen of the world and the child of the skies. Impressed with the importance of such sentiments himself, the author will make no apology for offering them as, in his own view, an appropriate introduction to a work chiefly designed for the benefit of the rising generation. End of section 1.